Welcome to Career Compass, the podcast where we explore the journeys of inspiring professionals from all walks of life. I'm your host, Stella Cho, and in this first episode, I'm joined by Cherie and Jon Werner, the founders of FIESTA. And FIESTA, by the way, stands for Founders, Investors, Entrepreneurs, Startups, Technology, and Austin Newcomers. Their mission is to connect Austin's startup ecosystem and make newcomers feel right at home. Personally, when I first moved to Austin, I went to their first event, Found Hers, which is also a part of Fiesta community, which is supporting all women founders and entrepreneurs. And there's mentorship there as well. And I was very inspired. And she was just so sweet and welcoming. And it was really women like her, especially, who really helped me thrive in the city in my new journey in adulthood. And since then, they've been a huge part of my Austin journey. And I'm so excited to share their story with you as the first episode of Career Compass. Let's jump in. So, Cherie, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, first, let me say thank you. It's such an honor to be your first guest. I so vividly remember you walking into Founders and you had your camera. And not only did you come to the event, but you wanted to use your gifts to serve. And I was just really touched by that. So, anyway, I am Cherie Werner, and let's see, what do I say about myself? I've been married to this guy for almost 40 years. It'll be 40 years in June. And together we have three daughters, Karen and Courtney. And then 10 years later, we had Kaylee. So I have been a mom. I'm still a mom, obviously, known as the Startup Mama here in Austin. But I loved my role as being a mom. I never thought I would stay at home as a mom, but there's something called hormones that happen after birth, and mine just kind of kicked in. And I just remember, when I had to go back to work, I just cried. I told John, it's like, I don't want to go back to work. I want to stay at home. And he was super supportive, and he really was kind of excited about that. So I chose that route, and loved being a mom, as I said. Let's see. You want to jump in? We met in college.
Yeah, we did. Met in college. You were a little sister in the fraternity. So
Yes.
we were friends actually before we started dating.
Yes.
So we would go jog together. We'd go
Play tennis.
play tennis.
Yeah.
We did all kind of fun stuff together. Really kind of building that friendship first before we started dating and then eventually getting married. So
Yeah.
I think that was really healthy for us to have that because we're still best friends, which is pretty
Yeah.
cool.
And their 40th anniversary is coming up June 1st. So,
Exactly.
so excited for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing accomplishment.
Thanks.
And yes, tell us a little bit more about yourself, Jon.
I got first introduced to doing some programming in high school by our math teacher. We had a TRS-80 computer, if you want to call it that, but it's back in the day when BASIC was the only language you could really program in, and for students like myself. And you would actually write your code and store it on a cassette, which is it sounds barbaric right now, but that's how you would actually store your.
You also had those papers.
Well, that was punch cards.
Punch cards, yeah.
So punch cards were a little bit more advanced than this.
Oh, wow.
But I really loved it and decided, graduating high school, that would be something I'd want to continue with. So I looked around and found that USL in Lafayette, Louisiana was a good place. They were doing a lot of, they needed a lot of, computer server support for oil and gas industry, which Lafayette, Louisiana was really well known for. So a lot of the companies, gave them a lot of early access to computers and mainframes and things like that, which made it a great opportunity for me. And it was a great opportunity because I got to meet Cherie at that,
Fate.
in Lafayette, which was incredible. So, but that started my journey in computer science. Graduated with a BS in computer science, and even ended up taking a job and moving us a long way away from home and friends our first job up into the DC area.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And my degree was in marketing and business, which is very obsolete compared to what's going on in marketing today. So when I started Fiesta, I just remember thinking, oh, I can do it because I have a degree in marketing and business. And it's like, oh my gosh, the learning curve has been so high.
But I'm here too.
Yes, you are. You've helped a lot. It's little things like that make a big difference. But yeah, we lived up in Virginia for 7 years, the DC, Virginia area.
6, 7 years. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We both, something unique about us is we both have security clearances. So we went through that whole application. I worked for TRW at the time, and you were working at the Pentagon.
I worked at the Pentagon for a year, and then ended up working as a contractor to the Navy, working on fast attack submarine software, which was pretty fun. So,
yeah.
Still having a love for cars. I didn't even talk about that, but my other passion is classic cars, having owned 2 Mustangs and 2 66 Mustangs and a 77 Bronco that I love to work on. So at some point, I will circle back around to that.
So tell us a little bit more about your story when you moved to Austin. You had started Koya. So tell us a little bit more about the environment when you were here and what led you to the founding of Fiesta.
Yeah, I think actually we moved here in 91 when Courtney was like 2 weeks old. And John moved to work with IBM, and you worked with them probably 2.5, 3 years?
4 years, 91 to 95.
Oh, okay. And then we took a stint and moved to California.
To do a startup.
That was your first experience with a startup. He left IBM because it was very much, you got on the treadmill and you just kind of followed that path. And John is very innovative. One of the things I like to brag about, because he won't do it, but like he's so innovative that he has over 70 patents that, it's like, okay, it's mind blowing, because I actually have 2 now because of Koya, which I'll tell you about. But it's like, it's a process, and it's an expensive process to file for patents. But then we came back to Austin from California after almost 3 years.
In 98.
In 98. And then at that time you were working for a different startup. And then you went to another startup. And then he finally started his own startup called Bones in Motion. And he worked there for, you can go ahead.
I started out in 2003, and we were the first, we pioneered mobile fitness. So before the iPhone and Android came out, we kind of saw the intersection with the E911 for mobile phones, so if you dialed 911 on your mobile phone back then, it didn't know where your phone was located, so it really couldn't help with any kind of emergency response. So there was a law that said, hey, all these mobile phones have to have some type of location to tell the first responders where to go to in case there's a 911 call. So we saw that coming. That means they were going to have to put GPS inside the phones. We knew that location-based services was something interesting to start, dabbling around in. And, Cherie was actually training for a half marathon. And we would have to, she had certain distances she had to cover leading up to that half marathon during the training. And in order to get a accurate representation of how many miles to go, we would get in the car and hit the odometer to 0 and drive a course and watch the odometer on the car until we could get to 8 miles or 10 miles, whatever she was trying to do. And I said, there's got to be a better way to do this.
Yeah.
And we kind of put 2 and 2 together and said, hey, you know what? Mobile phones at some point are going to have GPS. Let's start building an app for runners and cyclists and walkers, whatever, to calculate speed, distance, pace, and calories burned. So we started that company, and like Cherie said, in 2003, filed all our intellectual property in 2004, thought we were going to go launch the company, meaning the first product was going to get ready by 2004. But the service providers, the Verizons of the world,
they weren't ready.
They weren't ready.
No. So there's something about startups that either you're
It's all
too
timing.
early, you're right on time, or you're too late. And definitely in that case, or situation,
We were way early.
way early. So
Which ended up being good for patents, but not for generating revenue. We had to sit on our idea, won global awards around how we were using GPS in a really positive way.
So,
but then finally launched.
That was probably my first real experience with startup founders. I mean, like being married to a startup founder, watching the highs and lows, because there were three separate times where we had a contract on the table ready to be signed, and it didn't
To
go
acquire
through
us.
to be acquired. And so, like with startup founders, I always say it's not a done deal until the money's in the bank. I mean, we learned that the hard way. It was finally in 2009, Adidas or Adidas did acquire Bones in Motion, and that was nice because John went on to work at Adidas
for 10
for
years.
10 years. And I made him promise that he'd never do another startup. I mean, it was so traumatic, honestly. I mean, we had to sell our house, and I mean, like, it's a real thing that founders, when they are into doing a startup, they will sell things to make to make it happen. So we did that, and
Yeah, we ended up not taking any VC money. It was all angel money. So it was
Yeah.
actually, we kind of stayed lean.
yeah. But part of the reason was because VC said nobody would ever run with their phone.
Yeah.
So never, I mean, like, so those famous never words, I mean, as a founder, you've got to believe in what you're creating, because you will find the naysayers. They are out there, plenty of them. And, John, I mean, there were times it's like, are we going to make this? I mean, and yeah, we did. So, but that was, I made him promise that. And so for 10 years, he worked at Adidas, and it was a lot of security. And then
That meant a lot of travel, though, too.
Yeah.
So it was nice when we came out of Adidas to, it's like we were sitting around at a birthday for me, and we're like, Dad, what are you going to do next? And this is how Koya was born. It was like we were thinking about ideas that we could all, as a family, what could we go work on together? And we all shared different experiences, the two daughters and Cherie and I, and came up with the idea for Koya, which was a way to show you care when you can't be there. Still using location, but deliver really impactful messages, video or audio, to people you care about the moment that they step into an area, a geofence, a coffee shop, a restaurant, a gym, anywhere in the world, the Eiffel Tower, and then have your message delivered to that person serendipitously, which was pretty cool. And we were all set and ready to go to launch this at South by Southwest in 2020. And of course, that never happened.
That didn't happen. Yeah. So, and that's what we have the IP around.
Location triggered message delivery.
Yeah.
2 patents now that have been granted.
So,
And we're now sitting on those, waiting to see what we're going to do with those.
yeah. So
Mm.
it has a very, very long time. So
And as a woman, my heart goes out to Cherie, because he is out there innovating, creating, but you also have a family to feed. And that pressure is also on you. But as a mom, during the times of 2004 and 2009, what were you, how were you managing just the stress alone, or do you have any advice for other spouses of startups?
oh my goodness, great question.
We do it all.
yeah.
We would do it totally different.
We would totally do it different. So during that time, it almost felt like he had a mistress, and it was because as a founder, so much of your time and energy goes into just focusing on that. And we, in 2001, our third daughter came along, and I was homeschooling the 2 older ones. So not only was I, being a mom, but I was a new mom. I was homeschooling, and he was gone. I mean, like, he was there at the house, but he, like, working really long hours, and there was really no time. But I mean, I definitely think that we were smart enough to know that the best investment we could make was in our relationship. And so we actually sought counseling. And, whether you're a married couple or co-founders, you're going to go through hard times. And those hard times really do strengthen if you stick it out. It builds character. And
it's so much better to be proactive than to be reactive.
Yeah. So I definitely, be looking ahead.
Yeah,
We always tell couples, like the best investment you can make is being proactive and doing things to invest into your marriage. It's a lot cheaper than going through a divorce, that's for sure.
And we
Anyway,
are still together. Fiesta is a family-run company.
yeah.
And that's why I look to you guys as my mentors, because not just in, helping others, which is the core value that you guys share as a couple united in faith, but just the amount of connection and partnership you have built through all of the hardships. You guys stuck it together no matter what storm and rain there was. And it's just so inspiring to see, because it is so rare to see, but seeing you guys, I mean, John still opens the door for Cherie. We have evidence.
yeah, you got to see that when we did a photo shoot. Yeah.
It's just
No, and he
so
does. I mean, the one thing I think it's beautiful, but it's also hard that John set such a high standard for our daughters that it's made it really hard for them to find their life mates. Our middle one was married last year, and I think for Karen and Courtney, we're
And
like,
he's a great guy.
yeah, Jordan's amazing. So we have an amazing son.
And he's a software guy, so I can talk to him in a language that really resonates.
So anyway, but yeah, no, and John has always been that way. I mean, just very thoughtful, very assuming the best in other people, very even keel. I mean, he's been a real. I mean, we really complement each other well, I think. So
during South by Southwest German House, he's always in the back, and when you were there talking, I could just see the amount of love when he's just looking at you, proud of his wife, and the same for you as well. Just the amount of support, even as an outsider, just seeing that, it's so encouraging and makes Fiesta even more beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we did have a guideline, some tips for founders and professionals, and also tips for spouses as well. When I asked about some tips for professionals, founders, and their spouses on how to maintain a healthy balance between work and personal life, because that's such a lifelong homework that we all struggle with. And so, if you want to go read it, or
yeah, I know I have the questions here. Which one was that?
number 12.
Okay, 12, right here. So, and I probably just even John and I know for founders and professionals, definitely having clear boundaries. I mean, where is work? Do you work side by side in the bedroom, or is the bedroom off limits? Whatever those are, define those work days, when it begins, when it ends. Communicate early and often. Even today, I mean, like, we have to. Okay, what are we doing today? What time do we want to be there? How are we going to go? Navigating all of that.
We're not perfect at it.
My gosh,
I think we go from very defined working spaces to anywhere in the house, all of a sudden an idea pops in, or, I got to remember, there's an email I want to send, and you just plop down whichever room you're in and make it happen.
That's true. I mean, we protect our time together.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're and even family time too. So, and then welcome feedback. It was the other one that we had. Honor big moments in the home. And by that, I mean, there's going to always be investor meetings and launches, et cetera. But, your kids have recitals and special events, and you want to make that on the calendar also. I think really following a calendar is important. Put it on the calendar, because then it happens. I mean, they say that about exercise, which is not on my calendar, which is why it doesn't happen.
I would say also founders with kids. I really thought what I was doing to our daughters was not a positive thing with me traveling so much and being so involved in the startup. But what has actually transpired is that both of them have come out as entrepreneurs, wanting to build and are building their own businesses. So that, a lot is caught from your parents.
Yeah, more is caught than
more
taught.
Is caught. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then I think from a spouse's perspective, I mean, being their biggest cheerleader, which is kind of something I've carried over into Fiesta, because I remember recording, the high points when things were going really well, and then the hard times too, because sometimes when you're in the midst of a struggle, you can't see what's on the other side of that storm until you actually come out of the storm. But I to this day, I have all of that recorded, that I can go back and look at, and I think that made a big difference. I think communication in all relationships is so important. What you need, don't assume. I think that's really
Or if you do assume, always assume the best.
okay. There you go. He's definitely a glass overflowing, very much like his mom. And I'm like, okay, the glass is kind of half full, but I'm wanting to believe it's full. So, celebrate the small wins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I think don't lose yourself as a spouse. It's easy, for everything to be focused on them. But like if you have hobbies and things that you enjoy doing, do those things because there's life outside of all of that. And then know when to ask for help, which is for us. I mean, that really became critical.
That's one of the things we wish we had done more of in that first startup was to get more plugged into the Austin ecosystem, into the startup scene, where we could have had mentors, we could have had, they were there. It's not as extensive as it is now.
It wasn't as, yeah.
But it was still there. You just had to work a little bit harder to find it. And then even when we started Koya, we were kind of lone rangering it. We didn't really get plugged into the community at that point. And I think it's part of some of the learnings we've gotten from both those experiences that we realized the value of community in what we're doing with Fiesta and how much of a difference this can make to those that are starting their companies. And because I think one of the number one problems of startup founders is loneliness. And it's so easy to get caught up in just trying to do things on your own. And we have a welcoming community here that wants to help. So might as well take advantage of it.
Yeah.
So attest to that, because if it weren't for showing up to Fiesta founders to start in my Austin journey, I wouldn't be here where I am today. It was the continual support that I feel from the community on an everyday basis. Even a text, like reminding, hey, I'm thinking of you. I hope you're doing well. Just knowing that you have family here.
Yeah.
And, you're my startup mama, and I feel like the adopted daughter. It's just having that mental support helps you so much to believe in yourself more and just be encouraged to continue on. So I just see, like personally from my own life, even though I've been here only 7 months, the importance of feeling a sense of community and having somewhere that you belong. And I think Austin is such a supportive environment. It's such a great place, especially being a young professional. It is not too crazy expensive, and we're all here like, oh, how can I help you? How can I help you?
Exactly. And you never know who you're going to meet, but you have to show up. I mean, that's the first step. I tell people, just show up and just trust the process. I mean, even myself, I'm still meeting fascinating individuals at any event I go to. I always leave asking myself, who was the most interesting person I met? Because everybody's interesting. You just got to find those golden nuggets about that person.
And you go into it always with a posture of wanting to give, to serve. Because if that's your posture, then that's a win right there. You're going to come away from any interaction, any networking opportunity as okay, that was good. That felt good to serve. And then it's just bonus if somebody is able to help you.
Mm-hmm.
So we never assume that at all. So that makes it that much more fun and intriguing when that does happen.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, helping others, relationships, supporting each other. More than anything, it's not about the money. I mean, Fiesta, it's free to attend. There's food there because, like you said, how hungry you can be.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be a mental, if it's like you started a company, you're so deep into it, it's like you could lose everything that you have, but there is still so much determination and, you are a serial entrepreneur. What about this startup culture and what about startups that you love so much and what makes it such a core identity of Fiesta and you Werners in general?
I like not working for anybody. So it's like you are in control of as much as you can be, in control of your destiny. You control all the levers, all the knobs, all the things. And if you're creative, if you're somebody that comes up with ideas and things, working for a big company it can be difficult trying to get those ideas, to fruition. because there's a lot of other employees trying to do the same thing. They've got their own ideas, and of course the VPs and the executive team has their own ideas, and so you might be helping other people with their ideas, but you don't really get to drive your ideas to market and be able to see what sticks and what doesn't and be able to pivot. And I think that's exciting, is when you have customers because of something you built and they're saying great things about what you've done. That's a great feeling. It's a great feeling knowing you've created something that's solving a problem. And that's actually, I think I know that's why I do startups, is because there's a problem and we're trying to solve it. And how big that problem is, we're not trying to save the world yet, but we do think about ways to make life better and to help people connect. I mean, I think that's one of our core tenets, has been all about trying to make connections for people.
Yeah. And I would say the reason I started it was that I just, one, it's hard to move just in general, but to move during a pandemic, and so many people were moving here to Austin, and they didn't have family here. And so it was just natural for us, when I would meet them on a phone call, to say, hey, why don't you come over for dinner? And then want to introduce them to somebody else. And so kind of Fiesta kind of grew out of that. But it was just with the desire for people to be seen, to say, hey, welcome to Austin. We're glad you're here. How can we help? I think, when people feel like they're in a place of belonging, they want to come back. And that is the culture that we've been creating. Everything, the logo's a heart. Everything I do is with heart, because to me, a heart means that it's like a warm, hug. You're welcoming somebody. Yeah.
And I actually was invited to the Werners' home, beautiful home, and she made rice and beans dish. She's from Louisiana, and I literally told her this is the best meal I've eaten since moving to Austin, because I felt that it nurtured my soul. I mean, there are things that taste good and, are trending on Instagram, but it felt like it was home cooking because it comes from the heart. So I can just say that she really sincerely cares. My soul can feel it.
Well, when we first started Fiesta, what was interesting was that I'm like, I can do one meetup a month. And then I started meeting people, and we'd invite them into the house. And so Fiesta originally was the once a month meetup on the third Tuesday. And then we would always do a monthly dinner where we'd invite about 8 different startup founders to come around the table. And but when I started the founders, it was like, something has to give. And
I think we're going to go back to that again.
Yeah, we might try and figure it out a way, because it's there's something really special when you sit around a table, and to your point of feeding the soul. I mean, I think people open up, masks come off. I mean, the conversation goes deeper. So.
I mean, Career Compass is also about drawing out these stories of the people who are behind the company or mission that they have built. It's about who are you as a person and which values really drive you. Yeah. And so I connected with you because you guys are so, it's about the community and creating something that's bigger than ourselves. Yeah. And there's so much power that an empathy of a mother has, and just the determination and belief that Jon has on top of his intellect. It's just, and all of this combined in partnership, you guys just as a couple and, having different assets that you bring to the table, it's what makes Fiesta beautiful. And that's why I personally believe in Fiesta. So, before we get into
it's like this Southern hospitality. People can tell the moment that they walk into our house that there's something special about our house, because we really want that to be a place of peace and people feel welcomed and comfortable there. And we bring that same kind of feeling to this huge space downtown Austin that I think people that come from New York or from the coast, they're not used to this hospitality. They're like, okay, what's in it for you? Why are you doing this? We get these questions all the time.
Yeah.
It's like nothing's in it for us.
Yeah.
We're in this for you. We're like trying to serve you. Like that's such a foreign concept. So we actually see this as a way to maybe change some of the way people think about how you interact with each other, and do so in a respectful way, in a way that's uplifting and welcoming.
And I think the other thing about it too is collaboration. I mean, I never started Fiesta to be about us. It was really about the founder's journey because, in my opinion, I have a real strong sense of fairness and I want more equality, and I found it really difficult to find resources and to know how to plug into our ecosystem. And so what started as a monthly event soon turned into being a lot more because we started providing the different resources that would be beneficial to founders, and then also collaborating with the other ecosystem builders because there's a lot of event organizers out there, and I feel like they're the unsung heroes because they're focusing on something very niche. It might be CPG, it might be AI focus, and my goal is as a founder, I want them to find those niche groups because that's going to benefit that founder. If you're CPG, these are all the different CPG events you should go to. I'm going to let that founder know because that's going to help them. But you can always come back home. It's like we're an open door. And so I always say we're a quasi community with a focus on helping founders. And founders want to be seen. So we give them that opportunity, as you know, by letting them pitch 2 times a year on our stage and then telling their story. But my favorite part, which is what I did with Bones in Motion, is sharing the wins, celebrations, little things, because that can be the wind in somebody's sail to propel them forward. And so I try and keep up with the founders and knowing what's going on. It's easier if they reach out to me and say, hey, this happened, and then I can go that way. So.
Yes, and everywhere I go, I'm like, come to Fiesta. I go to a restaurant, I go get a massage. It's like, come to Fiesta and find your community because it is such a supportive environment. And, you might meet one person there out of all of the 200 something people who can say, oh, I know somebody who does this. And so there's beauty in networking. And it's so crucial in whatever you're building or just being a professional in general, to find your family.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Fiesta is all about. We are family, also helping you find your calling and family.
Exactly. You have chosen family and you have given family.
I'm amazed when we're out and about and somehow the topic of Fiesta comes up and then somebody will say, oh yeah, I've heard all about that. It's like, we don't even know this person, but yet they've already been exposed to somebody else that's been to Fiesta, or they've been to Fiesta before. So
yeah, I think in the 4 years we've had over 10,000 people come through either Fiesta or Founders or one of our events. So I mean that's a lot of people.
And the power of positivity is real. It spreads, and I think there's so much power in giving and nurturing. It might be shocking at first, like, oh, why are they so kind to me? But it's just those little acts of kindness that really can stay with the founder even for the rest of their life. That could be a turning point because, oh, there is still people helping others out there, willing to give you resources, are there to just hug you and welcome you. And that's how you feel at Fiesta.
A warm hug.
And now I want to kind of apply your experience. So you said that before launching Fiesta, you both ran a premarital counseling business, and also Jon had a startup, and it all ties in together. But what did the experience in serving family ministry and premarital counseling teach you about relationships, and especially for people who are in such a high stress and high stakes environment like startups?
So Jon and I, at the church we were going to, we volunteered. There's this pattern. There's a lot of volunteering. We volunteered. We worked with high school students. We've worked with college students. Then premarital counseling, and I think we probably had about 12 or 15 couples. And I mean, not all relationships are a match, and I think it's better. Some of my success stories are like the 3 couples that we encouraged not to get married because there were red flags. And I think the same is applicable in startup businesses with co-founders. There I mean, like, you have to ask the right questions. And a lot of the questions centered for premarital counseling is like about, finances, family and friends, who was going to do what, roles and responsibilities. What were some of the other ones? But anyway, if you don't agree on these things and you don't talk about it ahead of time, they will come up at some point. And so it was our job to help couples identify some of those key differences in how they communication style. How are you going to communicate about things? And how that's applicable in business is like I said. I mean, you're working with another person very closely. It is a marriage.
And it's one of the main reasons why startups fail. It's not. Everybody thinks it's because you lack funding, but one of the other reasons that's very high is because you have differences with your co-founder, and that can just totally bust up a company.
Trust is important. I think it's very important. Integrity.
I mean, it is like a marriage, between your co-founders.
Yeah.
And it's one that typically lasts, 7 to 10 years.
What would you say are some green flags that are a good sign that this partnership will work? Whether it's marriage or whether it's having a co-founder, what are some green flags? I mean, there could be shared values maybe, or similarity in faith or upbringing, but not even upbringing. What would you say is some of the green flags?
I mean, just for marriages, if the two are trying to outserve each other, that marriage is gonna last. That's like a huge green flag. If somebody goes into the marriage expecting stuff from that marriage, I'm expecting this, then that's I know we're talking about green flags, but that would be the opposite. But if they go into the marriage like, hey, I can't wait to just show my spouse, just love on that person and be able to take care of them and not be looking for ways to get anything out of it, all that's bonus. So trying to outserve each other is, I think, a really good.
I would also say not trying to change each other.
Oh, yeah.
I think, in marriage, I mean, like, you are choosing what you're getting, and it is. Now, I mean, the only person that could change in a relationship is you. And I mean, like, I know for myself in our marriage, I spent a lot of time focusing on areas that I needed to change and grow in. And I still am. I mean, I love to read books. If I'm going to read, it's going to be a book on self-improvement or business or something like that, where I'm learning something. I think also something else that's a green flag is, the commitment to the end product. I mean, like, for us, marriage is a commitment, and we went into it till death do us part. I think as founders, same thing is like, okay, we're working on this project until either, there's no longer any funding, or like there's really clear evidence that you shouldn't continue going forward.
Or there's an exit.
Yeah, or there's an exit. That's the best.
A windfall.
Yeah, so.
And I see that you guys complement each other. We talked a lot about, being a supportive spouse, but in turning that around, how does Jon help you in the ways that he can? Because I know he's the go-to tech support, and he's always there helping you set up at the events. And so you guys are a partnership. What are some ways that Jon contributes with his strengths in the partnership?
I would say the biggest strength about Jon is that he always assumes the best in me. And I could be having a really bad day and say something, but he doesn't allow that to set him off. I mean,
Passenger princess.
Yeah. I'm definitely his queen, so he's my king. But I mean, the other thing too is that in the morning, I mean, he wakes up again. That glass is overflowing, and and I could be having a hard day. And typically when one of us is down, the other one is up, which is nice. And yeah, I, the
Just the way that
it's just
laugh. It's like friendship.
yeah, it's his personality. I mean, he just is very even. He's a 9 on the Enneagram, and if you know anything about the Enneagram, 9s are non-confrontational, and that would be the other thing too in relationships is often what you are attracted to is going to be the one thing that drives you crazy about an individual because he's non-confrontational. There's times like I want him to stand up and like take a side, but yeah, he's not going to do it.
Also, women have our emotional
Oh,
ups and downs, monthly, weekly, whatever it is.
hormones.
Hormones, yes. But I think a supportive husband, if we're talking husband material, it's like they have to be patient and kind. And, it's that stability that we need being hormonal. And, not just hormones, but as a startup, there's a lot of ups and downs.
So many. I think it's the empathy that I bring to the table is because I've been through it with him numerous times. So I know how exciting things can be in one moment, and then the next you're like really really low. And the other thing I was thinking about for John is like, not only does he have me with all the hormones, he had 3 daughters. Bless him, bless you.
I did ask him once, how is it being like in a household with $3? There was just silence.
I loved it. I was so happy when the third one was a daughter. I was like, okay, I kind of know how these work.
Yes, practice.
So you were asking about, the importance of beginning with the end in mind. I wish I could have said that we did that with Fiesta, but honestly, when we started Fiesta, it was with the idea that I was only going to do one monthly event because that's what I could envision myself doing because we were still doing Koi at that time. Mm-hmm. And as we started doing Fiesta, we realized that there were so many other ways that we could better serve founders that it just kind of kept growing. And Meetup, you've heard of the platform Meetup. So they reached out to me. We started in July. They reached out to me in like September, October, and they were like, how are you getting 100 and something people to your event? And I'm like, we're just welcoming them. And they're like, I mean, really. And I think I had this mentality that I would rather die living than to live in fear, which I think for a lot of people, they were very slow on coming back to in-person events. And I think that was the same for a lot of the founders. The people who had moved here, they were ready to start living again. And so us being one of the first meetups that kind of got going, Meetup noticed that, and I was on their podcast in November around Thanksgiving, and then the CEO was going to be in Austin for South by. And so I said, well, why don't you come speak at Fiesta? And so at that point, we realized it's like, oh, wait, we're not just a monthly event. I mean, we need to start getting sponsorships. Our first sponsorship was from Lunch Club because that's how I met everybody was on Lunch Club. During COVID, I had like 200 and something interviews, and these individuals were moving here and they didn't know anybody. And so, that's who I sent out the first invite to. I just emailed everybody and said, hey, we're meeting at Easy Tire. Come join us. And we had about 37 people show up. And then Capital Factory in July said, you're welcome to use our space. So I decided that I would use the Capital Factory space. And it was always going to be on the third Tuesday. And I think there's something about consistency for spreading what you're doing, because if people come in and have a positive experience, just like you were saying, you're laying on the massage table and you're telling the masseuse, hey, you need to come to Fiesta, it's on the third Tuesday. Or you meet somebody out and they're new to Austin and you're like, oh, there's this really cool event called Fiesta, you should come. So it made it really easy for folks to invite individuals. I have been really working each year. I try and evaluate where we are and what do we want to accomplish this next year. Our ultimate goal would be that we could leave behind this beautiful legacy that continues on, serving the startup founders that come to Austin, that it would be a true hub where founders can come. I mean, if I was to dream big, it would be having our own space. It would have a coffee shop, bar in it, and, people would just kind of hang out there, even, having rooms in it. So, because there's a lot of internationals that come through, and being able to stay for like a week, max a month at a time.
Hospitality, but nurturing startups and
Yeah.
visitors.
To go bigger. I mean, but then I think it's like, oh, but I'm so tired. I don't know if I could do that.
I won't.
So we launched our global platform in March called Fiesta Connect, and we really haven't done a lot of promotion or anything, and we have over 500 people already on that, with the idea that founders are floating through the Austin ecosystem. I mean, they come here for a week or a month at a time, and they could be from California, New York, or international. And we've had people reach out and say, how do I bring this back to Amsterdam? Or there was a place in Africa. And I'm like, I just don't have the bandwidth to think about this. But now with the Fiesta Connect, we can actually serve anybody anywhere, which is exciting. And we're now going to be live streaming. So we've gotten that set up. So we add a little bit each time. And that's what our focus is on this year. I mean, you've stepped up to help with socials. I mean, I'm like, I can do some, but it's just not something I really want to put my time and attention into. And I would love to build a team. I mean, and this team, be sustainable and have funding so that they're just as excited and passionate as we are.
Yeah, there's a couple of dynamics that's happened post-COVID. One is, work from home, which also means, work from your hometown. So not only are people, did they go through a move from Silicon Valley back to maybe where they grew up when they went to high school, but they might be going back to their country of origin. And so they come back into these communities that are not as, not many startup folks around there. So providing a resource like Fiesta that's online allows you to still stay connected, even if you might be in a location that might not have as many in-person community opportunities, but you at least have something through Fiesta Connect where you can mingle with other, startup founders.
Yeah.
Bringing all the positive values. I mean, you originally came from Louisiana, but you brought your Southern hospitality to Austin, and now you're bringing out your passion for helping others globally and taking it to another level where more and more people, I mean, although the core of it is in-person networking events and that initial connection, but to keep that positive support anywhere that you go, and no matter where you are, as I think that would be your legacy as a couple. The Werners' legacy would be helping others feel welcome and to help them pursue their dreams and have a family wherever they're at.
Yeah, we had our first engagement at Fiesta, as you know. So, I mean, anything can come out of doing this, which is fun. But I was going to say, last year we got to go to Pakistan and look at the ecosystem there. And we did our first Fiesta in Pakistan outside of Austin, which was kind of thank you to Taha. But I would love to see other fiestas outside of Austin take place that people would step up and say, oh, I want to do this where I'm at, and we somehow figure out how to equip them.
So it comes from a serving posture, one that's more heartfelt, not just transactional. Because there's other things out there today that are very transactional. Here's the curriculum. Here's what you need to do as a startup founder. You need to work all these long hours. You got to meet these metrics, and the relational side of that can be missing. Not in all of them, but when Fiesta puts relationship first, and knowing that if we do our relationship stuff right, the transactional opportunities will come.
I think it all stems and together as you guys supporting each other as a couple.
Mhm.
It's not like, oh, well, this startup is not going well. Bye, Jon. And it wasn't ever, like that. And it's like Cherie, maybe she's not having a good day, but Jon was never like, well, you're too emotional. You know what I mean? It's like that teamwork. And of course, as a couple, there's ups and downs. But that focus on the relationship and the core relationship that you guys have as a person is what makes Fiesta beautiful. So I think that just circles back into, there is so much power in giving and nurturing others and believing in the other person
Mm.
and making them feel recognized and seen. That really makes me personally believe in Fiesta, and I believe in the amazing things that we'll do and the amount of impact that we'll have in this world.
Oh, well, I hope so. I mean, I was thinking last year we moved his parents here from Louisiana, and it was really probably one of our most tumultuous seasons of life. There was a lot of things going on, but that's where we really came together because I mean, like the fact that we made it through the year and accomplished as much as we did. I think when you find something you're really passionate about and you believe in, it makes it easy to show up because that's what filled my cup. Fiesta actually filled my cup. I think one of your questions earlier was why I do this is I'm inspired daily by these startup founders who are solving, you know, really important problems in the world, and so watching them, I feel like I get this front row seat to seeing some of the coolest ideas and things taking place.
Mm.
So,
Yeah, so it's just like that heart when I say thank you, Cherie and Jon. You guys are like, no, thank you for being. It's just that uplifting, and we keep continuing supporting. It's like making beautiful magic happen here.
yes, yes, yes,
I
yes.
think one of the impactful things Fiesta does, and we haven't been able to measure it though, but is if you go to Fiesta and you're not already involved in a startup, let's say you're working at one of the tech companies or whatever, and you're kind of dipping your toe in the water to see, do I want to leave my cushy job to go do something risky because I have an idea I want to go do. When you get into the Fiesta experience and hear from 10 founders on stage, and you cannot help but leave motivated and inspired to go do something because you just got finished hearing 10 incredible I'm motivated doing kind of stories. And if anything, keeping Fiesta as that springboard or that ability to not just facilitate a welcoming place for startup founders, but to encourage the next generation of entrepreneurs is a great place and a great feeling. And hopefully that will continue
Yep.
on.
In Austin, the physical location, the city itself is so supportive of small businesses, startups. It's such a great community if you have an idea that you want to actually actualize into reality. And of course, you'll be drawn and the river will take you to Fiesta and you'll be inspired. And it's just the starting point. Of course, you have to take ownership and you have to do your own part, but just having this community here, always here to support you, because a hard day or a setback is not the end. It's part of the process, and just embracing that, and just having a community, just mentally, like, oh, I can always have somebody I can reach out to who can guide me. Not maybe they're not the right person, but who has the ability to guide me to the other person, because our network is so wide from the relationships that we've built. So I really believe in our mission, and I'm so excited for our future.
Yay. Yeah.
So, how can we digitally stay connected with Fiesta if we cannot make it to a networking event that's in person or have moved?
Yeah. Well, so we have the founders that meets on the first Tuesday, and that's for women founders. On the second Tuesday and on the fourth Tuesday, we do the Fiesta Focus newsletter, which focuses on highlighting two founders and a funder, anybody that has some sort of funding options for founders. Plus, we try and put in like different events and things going on. But more importantly, the wins of founders. That's my favorite part. And then on the third Tuesday is Fiesta, and we now are live streaming that. You can find that on the calendar. The fiesta.community website is where you'll find our calendar, which has events for founders that are not gate cap, meaning any event that I find that can be beneficial to a founder, we put that out there. And so our calendar is really important. Um, is there anything else I'm missing? The Herald newsletter, that's our women's newsletter, that goes out on the Friday after our event. And we use that to share the ask of the attendees that go to the event, plus highlight different female founder and entrepreneur events that are going on. My ask in particular for the community and anybody listening to this would be that if you are a founder and you have somehow benefited from coming to a Fiesta or founder event, that you would share. I've had founders tell me that they have found investors. I've had some founders who have found co-founders or co-workers. We love hearing those stories and would love to be able to tell more of those stories, as well as understanding what your needs are. I mean, what is it like coming to Austin and not being familiar with the ecosystem? Is there something that we could do to make it easier, a particular resource or, a way to help you on your journey? We're very open to growing and learning from the community. We want to serve.
So we are making Grow That Fiesta, that community, which would be a platform where all of the attendees or past or founders can connect. And then we have an exciting project called Event Magic. And so tell us a little bit more about this magic.
Yeah, so this was born, having 250, 300 people at the time coming to Fiesta events. We would have a bottleneck checking people into the event, and my daughter Courtney and her, before he was a husband, her fiance or her boyfriend at the time, saw the problem, and he's a builder. He loves to create.
We both are.
Yeah, they both like to build stuff. And so they built this system that would make it easy for you to create name badges for people at our events and check them in, and provided, gave that as a gift to Cherie for her birthday. I can't remember which year that was, maybe
2 years ago?
2 years ago, and said,
Two or
hey,
three.
been working on this, check it out. And this is when we were all, it was all hands on deck on Fiesta. So we were all kind of working Fiesta and also having day jobs. But this was kind of like something that was a labor of love for them. And they handed it over to us as a way to, continue to add to it as they went back and, working on other projects. So we've kind of grew Event Magic just really for Fiesta. And we kept on having other event organizers would come to our events and saying, hey, really like this check-in system. Can I use it at my event? And we're like, this isn't a product. It's not a company. It's not something, that we can really do that with. And, I'm working on this other thing. And that literally happened for 6 months, and we're just kicking ourselves thinking, we got customers that are asking us for something.
Here's my money.
This is a company idea. So we spun it off as Event Magic, and really productized it, and started generating revenue at South by. We did our first couple of events at South by and have been generating revenue since March and April, and so now we're going into May. So post revenue now, continuing to grow Event Magic as a way to, if I could really articulate it, before I would say it was more around event management, but now I would say it kind of gives superpowers to those that attend so that you can network more effectively, be able to create easy to follow up connections so that you don't lose those connections. Because so often you go to a networking event and you meet people, and maybe you try to connect through LinkedIn or something, and then you get back, home, and a couple of days go by, and you all of a sudden look at your LinkedIn and you go, who are these people and that I connected with, and what was the context? I don't even know why I was talking to this person. Maybe you figure it out, but anyway, it's hard. And so we wanted to remove all that friction with follow up. And so when you go to an event that's actually been put on with Event Magic, there's a QR code. Each person has a unique QR code. You scan that QR code, it instantly creates a follow-up. It sends each person, the scanner and the scanning, a text with a link to their profile. So it helps you remember, okay, at this event, I met this person. After the event, we send a digest to everybody that attended saying, hey, here's all the people that scanned you, here's the people that you scanned, and here's a link to everybody else you weren't able to meet. So it really helps facilitate that follow-on connection with people, and we have some incredible plans for how this is going to allow you to, create little annotations around your small time you had with somebody. Maybe a quick video, audio note, or a little text that you might add that gets attached to that person, so that when you see the follow-up, it puts you right in that frame of context of why you were communicating with the person, why you want to stay in touch with them. And so our whole mission there is all around connection again, and staying connected and building, these networks. And so it's
and somehow gamifying it too, because we can go back and see who scanned the most, who had the most connections at the event. I tend to be the one with the most connections. So I like it because it is gamified, but also we eventually want to build into it some prompts that will help connect. Like if you and I had gone to 3 different events and had never connected, it would say, oh, Stella, by the way, you and Cherie have gone to these 3 events. Would you like to meet? So it's like a double opt-in, because one, right away, there's something that we both are interested in, and we have a similar interest because we're showing up at the same events. And then we'd like to be able to do matching based off of what people are looking for. If you're looking for somebody in CPG, it can make recommendations. Those are the things where we'd like to see it go. Yeah.
It's all connecting, helping others, the technical part of it being a gift from your daughter and your son-in-law. How beautiful is that? I mean, your parents are deep into startup, and now your daughter created a product, and now we're taking it to market, and it's a product that's really meant to make founders' lives easier. And it's just in the little details, like maybe you go to the right event, but you forgot the person's name, or you don't know how to reach them. It's just in the little parts and the little tips that you need to really get your journey going. And just like, it's not just about your company story, but being a mother and being a spouse of a startup. Those little things that are all integrated in the life of the ecosystem of being a founder and being in the startup space. I think these little details and really being tuned into how can we serve others today is what helps Fiesta grow and what makes Fiesta the beautiful thing that it is.
And what's really, if you really start thinking about what AI is doing and all the hype around AI, I mean, deservedly so, in real life connection is if anything is going to grow and become more important, because as agents are doing things on your behalf, you'll have more time to spend, more margin in your life to really help nurture those connections. And so in real life, meetups and networks are gonna continue going. They're not going to get replaced by AI. If anything, they're going to get enhanced and augmented by it.
Yeah.
AI is a tool to help real people, and it's also made by people.
Exactly.
In the end, we're real people behind the camera, with feelings, emotions, the ups and downs going through life. And Fiesta is here to support everybody here.
We are. Very much so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay. Thank you.
Oh, yes. And special shout out to Dane
Yes.
for
Yes.
helping us with the whole setup, videos, and everything. We actually met in person in South by. He was at the Asian Creatives event, and I want to just turn the camera.
Oh, wow.
You're like, thank you so much
Of course,
for
of course.
helping
Happy
us.
to help.
He is an amazing human being. So thank you so much.